Hi everyone, my name is Jonna Ekman and I'm the marketing director at Storykit, and I'm going to talk about how to kill your darlings or how to write an effective video script. As I just mentioned, this is the third webinar I'm hosting for Storykit Academy, which we are rolling all over the fall. It's going to be 4 ebooks and 4 webinars all together. We have talked about video strategy. That was the first one. We've talked about storytelling. And now this month we have talked about script writing. And during December, we will talk about production tactics. You can revisit all of these webinars, download all of these ebooks, except for production tactics, which will be available from next week. And you can also sign up for the production tactics webinar at storykit.io/academy. And we love that people are coming back to our webinars. That is a good sign that we're doing something that is actually good. So please join. Let's start. So a couple of years, this example has become a bit old, but I love it still, so I'm still going to use it. You might all remember this girl, and you should also remember this special occasion, because this was when Greta Thunberg had a keynote not a keynote, but she held a really enticing speech for the UN, and she just told the world to go, because we were doing the wrong thing. And Greta had been talking a lot at that time. We had seen her in the news, we had seen her in the TV for quite a long time. But this speech did something that no other speech that she had held before did. So the day afterwards, this was how the Nordic newspapers looked. And if you looked all over the world, the reactions were pretty much the same. People were like, wow, what happened? And since I'm quite curious about video, I spent some time thinking about what happened. What did she do this time that was different from all the other times? And a lot of people were thinking about this. So why was she making such a big impact this time? And a lot of people said and analyzed that the fact that she was really emotional this time, that she was almost crying and she was really hard when she spoke. And that was the explanation why this had such a great impact compared to all the other things she had done before. And that was my analysis. That was my idea too. That was the thought I had, that was the difference. But then my colleague Fredrik made this video and put it on Facebook. And this is like 12 seconds of white text on a black background. And when I saw that video, the hairs on my arms just went like, ooh, something happened here. And it's true. Greta had written a really great script. Of course, her emotional way of talking and all of those things added to it. But in the end, she had a really nice script. And before we start talking about how to actually write that script, we need to revisit what video actually is. And for you who joined our strategy webinar 2 months ago, this will be a short repetition, so I'll go through it quite fast. So many people still consider video in the old way of considering video, like something that is really expensive. You have to do the viral, super duper expensive, agency created videos that should like do a tour all over the world and do a huge difference for every video. The epic split is a good example of that. Or you think that video is just for the experts. You need that person with the heavy camera equipment that he or she has bought for, I don't know how many kronor or dollars or pounds or whatever. And you need to have some kind of super duper talent to be able to do this. Or at least you have to be the person who can do this very complicated editing thing. The person will hide in a room for weeks and just do things that I will never understand because video is so complicated. Or you might be the person who think that video is impossible to scale, that every little video is an island that will never be able to be reused. How can you do that again? How can you use that work again? You can't, because video is this strange creature. But the truth is that today most videos should look like this. And remember the Greta video. It was white text on a black background. And since a couple of years, video should be, not all video, but a lot of video, much more video than you think, should be text-driven and very, very simple, done with maybe stock images or just generic images, or as in the Greta case, no images. Why? Because something has truly changed. So Facebook launched their newsfeed in 2006, and shortly thereafter, they started rolling out their ad solution. And this changed a lot on how we do ads in the world, not only on digital, but in the world. And a couple of years after that, they launched video ads. And they knew at the time that if those ads started playing in the newsfeed with sound on, no one would revisit Facebook, because no one can do that. So they launched it with the auto start and the silent feed. So all videos started playing without sound. And this changed something in how we perceive video and how we consume video. Today, 80 to 90% of all video views happen without sound. And Facebook even says design for sound off, but delight with sound on. So it's much more important to design your video for sound off. And this doesn't matter if you say, well, I'm going to put it on YouTube or I'm going to do it on TikTok. Those videos often end up on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn anyway, so where we don't turn on the sound. So yeah. And this means that the most important factor for a successful video is the script, as in the Greta case. And this means that we have a new video pro in town, and it's not the person with the heavy camera equipment, it's me or you, the person who can write, the person who has stories to tell, the person who is used to communicating with text, something that we do all the time. So what is a script for you? Because when I talk about script writing, I am not talking about this. I am not talking about which angles we should film stuff from. I'm not writing lines for an actor that should talk. I'm not talking about what type of lighting I should have. I'm not talking about what minutes we should do. I don't know. I don't even know what they have in a script. I'm talking about this. This is a real script that Heidi, my beloved and birthday girl, has written. She's turning, we don't talk about age here, but it's her birthday today. She has written this. It's from a case study that we wrote, and she wrote a short and sweet script for the video. And this was how it looked like. And in our tool, Storykit, that I would love to tell you more about, but I'm not going to talk you through it today, we just set the script on slides. And then in the end, we add some assets or just make it black and white, and we create a video. And this is how we do it today. So when we talk about script in this way, text and assets, not video and maybe text, then we do something else when we talk about script writing. So the first step you need to do when you write this type of script is to check your basics. So start thinking before you write, and be really hard on yourself, because why would anyone want to watch this? It's so difficult. It's such a difficult question to ask yourself, but it's so important to do it. And why would anyone want to share this? And why would anyone want to comment on this? So why would people interact with your story? If you have an answer to that, it's really good. Then we can take the next step. But if you don't know this, the audience won't know it either. Is this story interesting for anyone outside your company? It's so easy to just, oh, this is very interesting for us, and tell that story, but you shouldn't. And if you're thinking about storytelling, we have a really good ebook on that, on a page I just told you about. The second thing you should know before you start creating your video or writing your script is to know what you want to achieve. Because your script will be quite different if you want the audience to learn something, or if you want to change their attitude. Those are two completely different scripts. Or if you want them to do something, do you have a call to action? Do you want to sell something? Do you want them to go out in the world and do something new? Or do you just want them to feel something? Maybe you need to give them a very emotional message. The video will be completely different than if you want them to learn something. Or maybe they just want to be entertained. Maybe you have a good, funny idea that will boost your branding, and it's really, really funny. That's good, but that's a different video. So you want to know what you want to achieve. The third thing that we talk a lot about at Storykit is to find your target audience and shrink it. And this is the short story about target audience, because this is the whole target audience that you have. You probably know it super duper well, and you know exactly what they want. But the problem is you have this little story, and these are the few people that are interested in the story, because not everyone in your target group will be interested in everything that you do. That's just the hard truth. So what you should do is try to find and understand who this little piece of your target group is that you want to direct this video to. But how can I reach all these people if I concentrate on that few people? Well, of course, you create a lot of videos, and then you have reached your whole target group. This is a basic tip that is connected to the last one about target groups, is that you should do one thing at a time. And as I often say, that if you want to remember anything about video creation, it's this: do one subject at a time for one audience, and that is one video. If you have more things to say, if you have several subjects you want to cover, you need to create more video, because our attention span might be okay, but we still just want to focus on this one thing and for one target audience. The second step is to sort the information and to remember that you are always telling a story. So many people, when they start creating these quite quick, simple, text-driven videos, don't feel like they're telling a story. It's just 15 seconds or it's just 60 seconds. I can't tell a story, but it's not true. And this is my best example of that, because the shortest story ever written was this: for sale, baby shoes never worn. And I've talked about it extensively during Storykit Academy. They say that this quote is from Ernest Hemingway, but we don't know that. But the point here is, if 6 words can be a story, then your 60-second video can definitely be a story. And this means that you should consider the story arc. Even this 15-second video needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's that simple. So start with listing what you want to include in the video. What do you want to say? Sort it, and then take most of it away. Remember, one thing, one target audience, one video. So you will probably have to take most of it away. And always remember that every video should be a unit, one thing. Because when you send it out to the world, if you have made 3 videos where the number 3 is dependent on that the viewer had seen 1 and 2, in social media, that will never happen. So tell a whole story in every video. And then you might ask, well, how long should a video be? Well, you know, of course, that in Sweden we say hur långt är ett snöre, or how long is a string. It can be any length. But the golden rule here is that it should be as long as you can keep the viewer's attention and as long as the story needs it to be. You can't tell every story in 15, 60, or even 90 seconds. So then it might have to be longer. But if you can't keep the viewer's attention, it doesn't matter. So how long should your story be? Well, as long as it needs to be and as long as you can keep the viewer's attention. The third step here, when you write your scripts, is to start with a bang. Because the first seconds on social media are so crucial, and we all know this. So spend time getting it right, because it doesn't matter how good your video is in second 30 and 35 if you don't have any viewers left. So the first seconds are super duper crucial. Many copywriters say that the first line of text, the job that the first line of text needs to do is to get you to read the second line of text. That should make you read the third line of text and so forth. And the same with video, especially if you work with slides in this way. The first slide, the job of the first slide should be to make people watch the second slide, which should make people want to watch the third slide, and so forth until the ending slide. If you think of it like that, you will be more careful that every slide actually counts. So what we recommend, of course, is to try and try and try again, because you can always find new ways of starting a story. And in a tool like Storykit, if you use that, it's super, super simple to just change the first slide and change the start of the video and see what works. Did this work? Did that work? Now I know more. And the trick is to write at least 10 different starts, or at least write 3 different starts and try them all just to get the ideas flowing. Maybe the ending would be better off as a start, or the middle should be the start. Just try different things and don't get caught up in a way that you always create video. I always do like this. Yeah, but please try new stuff. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to hook your viewer, because starting your video with a hook will make the viewer stop. So the first thing is to use thought-provoking questions. So people are curious. So ask a question that tickles their minds. And this could be anything. And I can't even give you examples because it's so dependent on what you do, what you're selling, what story you want to tell. But a thought-provoking question is always really, really good. But do not take too long to answer this question. That's a mistake that people do. I have seen videos, especially if you see these videos like the very big secret of this famous celebrity, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like a 3-minute video of other things. And I just want to know that super duper interesting secret. And then I turn it off because I don't have the patience to wait. So that's the number one mistake you can do when you start your video with a thought-provoking question. The other is to fail to answer it completely. I have seen this happen so many times. That's clickbait for you in video form, and the viewers hate it. So don't do that. The second way I would recommend to hook your viewer is to do a bold assertion, because taking a stance will always grab the audience attention. I mean, if the question you had used before was thought-provoking, this stance could be something that it can grab your audience attention as much. It doesn't really matter if they agree or not, if they agree or disagree, because if it's a stance, a bold stance, they will still do the, I need to check this out. So what should you not do? You should not provoke just for the sake of provoking. This is, in my world, as bad as clickbaiting, because just provoking feelings is something that very few video creators, companies, influencers, whatever, it isn't good for them, because people don't want to be provoked in that way. Wonder if I'm clear now. Anyways, another good way to start a video is with an inspiring quote. We all love the inspiring quotes. That's why we see them everywhere. And also because people love people. We love to know that this is a person has actually said this. This is not just something that that organization that is trying to sell us stuff has come up with. This is an actual person who has said it. So always look for good quotes to use. And do not choose a quote that is too long. So a quote that is too long will probably not do the job as the beginning of the video. I have also seen in the middle of videos quotes that are so long that when it comes up on the screen, you're like, oh, so don't do too long quotes. And also, this is a writing tip. Don't think that the quote has to be 100% accurate. I mean, when you interview people and write what they've said, you will remove all the ums and the ahs and the and the I don't knows. And when you're working with quotes, especially if you want them as hooks or if you want them as blurbs or blasts or whatever, it doesn't need to be 100% accurate in the wording. I mean, the meaning of the quote still has to be something that the person will recognize. You don't want the person to say, I didn't say that. But you can do a bit of molding with it to make it more, to make it better. So no great quote is taken as it was said, because no one talks without the ums and the ahs. The fourth thing you can do is to introduce the problem. And I mean, hey, we're selling stuff. So tell the customer what problem they have and how you solve them. So do you truly understand the problems they have? And do you have the solution? Let it show, because that will hook the person with the problem. I'm promising you. But do not complicate things. This is something I see companies do all the time. This is something I actually struggle with myself, because it's so easy to complicate. I want to describe this problem very, very properly. No, you should really simplify it because it's in a video. So do not complicate things. And the fifth thing is to use facts and stats. People love to see figures, stats, and facts, and they will make you seem credible. I have done my homework. I have stats and figures to show you. So use them, but do not forget to mention the source. First of all, because the source is everything. Is this some made up number that no one believes in? That's not good. And the second thing is you will eventually get questions about what's the source. And if you don't have that source, believe me, this has happened to me, because I've used quite a few numbers in my keynotes. And then afterwards, someone asks me, could you just send me the sources of those numbers? And you're like, ooh, and that's embarrassing. So don't forget to mention the source. Now you might wonder, oh, you're talking about these hooks, but what about just using a proper headline? Oh, yes, 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 do it. But keep in mind, because headlines can be a bit boring. So be super clear. Keep your promises. If you're saying that something's going to happen in this video and it doesn't happen, you're not doing a good job. Dare to use angles. Think as a journalist. What's the thing here? What's the angle? Why would they want to see this? Highlight the benefits. It's good to be super clear. Why? Oh, I saw a raised hand there. I think I will stop for questions afterwards. So keep that question in mind, okay? And avoid headings. And in Swedish, this is super duper easy to explain. And I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm not sure if I get this right word in the words, but a heading is like Monday at 10 o'clock or Monday meeting. That's not a headline, that's a heading. And we don't use them in videos unless you are, I don't know, creating a course or doing a video for a policy in your company, then you might need to use headings. But if you are creating a video for social media that you want people to engage with, headings is not a good idea. So let's get into the script writing. Start working with the words, and this is the fun part. Write the script. And since I'm a word person, I'm a storyteller at heart, I'm an old writing journalist who love words, This is so much fun, and there is so much you can do with your video just by changing words. So the first thing is, do kill your darlings. And this is interesting. I was actually criticized for using that expression. And then I went to LinkedIn and asked people, is that a bad word to use? Is that a bad expression to use? Kill your darlings. And everyone was like, no. So I'm still using it. I'm sorry if I'm offending someone. But the thing is, boil things down and make it shorter. No video has never, ever been worse by being shortened. Okay, anyways, and then make it even shorter, because you need to say exactly as much as you need and nothing else in your video, because you want to keep those viewers and you want to talk about one thing. The other thing you need to think about is to keep it simple. A good copyright advice is to write like you talk. And once again, I'm not talking about the us and the ums. I'm talking about writing in a language that is simple and straightforward. How would you explain this to a friend in a bar? Do not think that your entire audience understand your business words or your abbreviations and the ROIs and the CTAs and the you know what. Be super duper clear. And this goes for everything on social. And use short word and short sentences. That is much, much better in video than long words and long sentences. Not just because of space, because there are often not as much space as you might want it to be in a video, but also because it will make your viewer more attached to the video if it's shorter and sweeter and clearer. A third thing you can remember, or should remember, is to change the tempo once in a while. So a video that is like super the same throughout the video will not be very much fun to watch. So mix longer phrases with shorter. And if you're a Storykit user, you know that there are different types of storytelling slides you can use. Slides that you can have a lot of text on, and slides where you can just have a word on. And things happen when you mix those up for the viewer, and it will be a much more fun ride throughout the video. And remember that 1 or 2 words can have more effect than a whole sentence or 10 exclamation mark if you just use the right word in the right way. So that's a super, super important thing to think about. Here is also wording. Be active. Do not say, today we are launching. Instead, quite the opposite. Do not say, today blah, blah, blah is launched. Use an active form. Today we are launching. This will make the viewer connect to your video much, much more. It will increase the feeling of pace in your video because an active language feels much more active. And it feels much more, it feels faster, even if it isn't. So always use active phrases. If you use a tool like Grammarly or another spelling tool, they're always like, please use an active phrase, and please do. That's actually true. And always remember that you're talking about you. Try to talk about you and not us, not me, not our company. Try, and I mean, there are loads of things that you will have to tell that will come from the inside out, and you will need to talk about your company. But remember that if you can, please use you, because if you see the word you will immediately be more connected to the video than if it's just like, we are, once again, we are launching. So try to, instead of saying we and our platform will make this happen, try to say, now you don't have to spend time on blah, blah, blah. This will make you connect to the viewer's problems also. It will make you think, why should they really, get back to the very first tip that I gave, like, why should they even be listening? Another tip is to mind your tone. So you might have an organizational tonality that is very special for you, and then you should truly be true to that. but mostly be positive. I have seen so many companies try to have a sarcastic voice or a funny voice that doesn't end up well, or a very strict voice that is just boring. So if you can't find another voice, being just positive will be better than everything else. So how could you do this? Well, you can change negative words and expressions to positive. Instead of saying don't, say do. But of course, you need to adapt the tonality to the audience, the purpose, the context, the subject, your organization, and so forth. But remember also, and this is one thing that I often talk about, is that you don't have to be funny just because you're on social media. Social media is not a platform that says you need to be funny or you will die, because you should be you. And if your tone is very, very smart or very, very knowledgeable, or well, maybe even quite strict, if it suits you and your purpose, use that tone. But remember to also be positive. So the seventh thing to remember is to use a call to action. So the audience do want to know where this is leading. Why did I watch this video? What's going to happen? You never have to be ashamed of telling them if there is a CTA. So example is, yeah, I want the demo, or now and today. You see the happy tone? You can use, we will get back to this, rhetorical questions. Use the word free. And of course, use testimonials. Do like 500 other companies and try our amazing tool. Do it now. Because on social media, we don't have time to beat around the bush. We just have to be super clear with what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why you will benefit from it, and what we want you to do. I think this is maybe not, but this is the 8th tip, is to get help from a friend or a colleague. And this is a super good thing that is so simple to do, and you always forget to do it, because colleagues are good at seeing things that you can remove. They are better at killing your darlings than you will ever be. So let them. But they are also super duper good to see when you've removed too much. Sometimes when you have tried to just boil down your own script, you have taken away too much. So it becomes completely impossible to understand for someone who didn't know what your original thought was. And you might not see it because you know your original thought, but then a colleague can come in and say, hey, I don't understand where you're getting with this. Another tip that I don't think I have here is to read your own script out loud, because everything will show when you read it out loud. It's a super naked exercise to do. And there are, of course, things that you should avoid when you're writing your script, unless you know exactly why you're doing this. So if you're a very seasoned copywriter or writer, you might use these things for effect. But if you are a bit insecure, just don't use them. So the first thing is rhetorical questions. Questions that might be confusing if they are used in the wrong way. Rhetorical questions are, of course, questions that don't need an answer. And they can come off as quite provocative if they're used in the wrong way. Tautologies, I had to look up if there was actually an English word, because it's the same in Sweden. They just take up space. So don't say warm up or serious crisis or totally unique, because those words mean the same thing. Just say crisis. A crisis is always serious, and something unique can never be totally unique, because either it's unique or not. So tautologies are words that mean the same, but you still put them together. And sometimes you want to do that for effect, but sometimes they just take up space. Look out for redundancies. That means unnecessary words. All the I thought that blah 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 blah, which you do a lot when you're speaking, but you shouldn't do that in a video script because that also just takes up space. So look out for those and take them away. It's so easy to just do that. And this is something that you need to do in those quotes too that I talked about earlier, because people say words that are unnecessary all the time. Just take them away. Don't use passive form. We've been through this. This is also a language thing. Subordinate clauses. It's like, oh gee, it's like when you have a sentence and a comma and then another sentence. That is a really good way of writing when you're writing for a reader in a paper or in a book or anything, or a long text. But when you're working with video, it might be much, much more effective and much, much more, gives the video a much higher pace if you just set a period and start another sentence. So chop them up in small sentences instead of comma, ba, 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 because that will be very, very long. And as I said, captions, they are not the same thing as headlines. Don't use them unless you're doing an educational video where you need to use them. And don't use crammed text. Because when you watch a video and you come to a slide where there is so much text, at least I immediately go, oh, whether it's a quote or a text or whatever. And it's so easy to just spread that text out. If you need all that text, spread it out, shorten it, ease it up. You need to do that, because just reading a whole lot of text in a video might discourage the viewer, I promise you. And now we're coming to the last step in this little course. And as I always say, just do it. Because we are all beginners at some point. And there is only one way to learn, and that's by practicing. And that's what we all need to do on social media. I need to repeat this very true thing, that the only way that you can learn what works for you and your audience is to try, fail, try, win, try, fail, and try again. Because you can read any white paper or do any best practices and it might not work for you. So you truly need to try. And when it comes to script writing, you need to remember that even those who have worked for a very long time with text-driven video and social have done it for maybe a couple of years or so. So this huge change in how we consume video happened from 2013 and forward. And just 5-6 years ago, when I started working with this, the American way of doing video at the time, like Now This did and like Kit did in Sweden afterwards, was completely new. People's minds were blown. And that is just 5-6 years ago. So even those who are really, really genuinely have worked with this for a very long time haven't worked with this for more than a couple of years. So it's a good time to be a beginner. And let's round this off with a little checklist. Have you discussed your subject and hook with anyone? Good thing to remember. Is this script about one specific thing or one specific target group? Very, very important. If the answer is no, redo it, please. And if the CEO comes in and says, well, we should do this and this and this too, say, yeah, that'll be a couple of more videos. Ask yourself, why would anyone want to watch and interact with your video? Ask yourself, is there a better way to tell this story? Should it even be a video? Maybe it would be better off as an image or just a text post. I don't think so, but it happens. Should it just be a shorter video? Should it be 3 videos? Should it be a bit longer video? Should we just, is this the best way to tell this story? Are there any unnecessary words or sentences you can remove? I guess there are. Take them away. Can you understand this video even if you don't turn on the sound? That's so basic nowadays, and that's why we're doing this at all. write a good script so they don't have to turn on the sound. And of course, how does the script match what you know about your target audience? The most important thing here is your target audience, because you can do the best video. If they don't like it, it was still useless. So truly get to know your target audience, understand what they want to see, what they want to hear, what they need from you, and what you can give to them, and everything will be much, much better.